Hey everyone, welcome back to Miniature Game Montage. I'm Jimmy, and today we are going to build a Necromunda tile. I'm going to show you step by step how I printed, built, and painted this entire tile. We're going to cover the cost and so much more. It's all coming up as we gear up for a new season of Necromunda down in the Underhive. Alright, it's good to have you with us. So I have been a modular terrain guy for years now. Ever since my channel started, I have hand-built all of our terrain boards, and I'm getting a bit tired. It takes so much time to place every individual column and platform to where I do want to do something more static and create some static tiles. So I figured with the next season of Necromunda coming up, maybe we would just create something from scratch. And for my initial tile, this is what I came up with. It is going to be a general purpose tile that I'm going to call the Twin Stairs. Now I know what you're thinking, where are the links? And I will put a single link down to my website in the description. It will include all of the files and everything that you need to get going. I did print this on my Bamboo A1. If you are new to 3D printing or you are considering a 3D printer, I will put a link down below again where you can go check that out. I highly recommend the Bamboo A1. Now the foundation of our tiles will be 2-inch insulation foam, and this will allow me to later on in future tiles cut down into the foam and create some pitfalls. On top of that, I have put these 6-inch Zone Mortalis style compatible terrain blocks. You'll need to print 4 of these and glue them down with some PLA or hot glue. I did print one of these double walls that we're going to start with, and for this project I do recommend this Gorilla super glue. I tend to use the Loctite super glue gel. That is my go-to for miniatures, but when it comes to terrain, this stuff draws a much larger bead and does just a fantastic job, and it's cheaper than the Loctite. Again, you can use the link below for all of the products I use. Those will be affiliate links, so you'll be supporting the channel if you happen to buy any, but we're going to place this double wall right here. And as we make this tile, I am going to keep up with costs and time to print, so you'll have an idea of how long and how much it will cost you to build the tile. The cost will represent everything that was used to print in this build, so if I used 10 columns, for example, that will be the total cost for all 10 columns. Now flanking the double wall will be our first columns, and while these do snap into place pretty snug, I am going to glue them both down. Up next, I print the Nub-Notched 5 walkway, and you want to make sure that you do a reverse of this. That's very easy to do in the slicer. You're going to want to print one normal and then reverse for the other side. We'll stick those on top of our columns as shown here. Now for the stairs, I did pre-glue these pieces on because it's going to make the assembly a little bit easier. You're going to want to use supports when you print the stairs, as well as the platform, as it does have a little bit there that needs support. I recommend using normal supports and not tree supports. I also recommend that for all of these top level tiles that we just did, such as the 5 nubbed walkways. Just put on supports and use the normal supports that the slicer gives you. I did trim off the little nubs on the top of the supports so the platform will sit flush, and then I will glue that down and we'll put some more stairs now leading up to the second level. I'll repeat this process for the other side. So to finish off this section, we're going to put 2 more columns down. I've already included this in our total cost, and we're going to include some of the tops that go along with these columns as well. Now I would like to take a quick break to say thank you so much for watching the video. If you find it helpful, be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing, as that does help the channel out. Alright, with phase 1 of this build complete, we are going to go ahead and glue on some rails. And I did print these rails in resin, but you could easily print them out with your Bamboo A1 PLA using supports. I think they would still come out very nice. I did have a lot of misprints, and I decided to save those because it just looks like the railing has crumbled or been demolished, and you could easily accomplish this by just clipping them with some sprue clippers as well. Now these rails did not initially fit on these tiles, and they do have these little nubs on the bottom. I did clip off the bottom piece of that so they would fit on the terrain. They're going to be glued in place, so this doesn't really matter a whole lot. Now, how you put them on is totally up to you. I did leave some of those metal spots open for future connectors from other pieces that may be against this one. So as I'm thinking about tiles for the future, that's kind of the things that I'm thinking about, is leaving spaces in the middle where tiles might connect. Alright, moving on to phase 2, we are going to drop 2 more columns down. Only for these columns we are going to use the connection pieces, and we're only going to need 2 of those for this build. Once placed, we'll put another column on top that's already been factored into our cost, and then we are going to repeat this on the other side. Up next we have the nub-notched walkway. This is going to be the 8-piece, and we're going to print 2 of these, and remember that you want to mirror them, so in your slicer print 1, and then you can mirror it, and then print another. You will want to use supports here, as that centerpiece that connects to the column does prop the entire thing up, so just use your normal supports and not the tree supports. Next, we connect 2 stair pieces together. This has already been factored into our cost as well. Focusing on these little 2 holes right here, that's kind of where you want to piece them together to where they just kind of seamlessly go. And we are going to place 2 of those side by side going up to this 3rd level. Once attached, I'm going to draw a bead of super glue down the middle of these platforms to really make sure that they join together cohesively. Next up, we'll add some rails to this level as well. These have already been factored into our cost. And again, just be thinking about where future tiles might connect. I'm going to leave the center open. Up next, I print up some railing to go on the stairs. I did do these in resin as well to speed things up. You could easily do these with your PLA printer. I do recommend using tree supports on these. Now for final touches, we can make some greebles, and I'm not going to include a lot of this stuff in the cost because it was so minuscule, but you've got these archways here that you can put next to the columns, kind of supporting the platforms, and then some other bits and bobs that you can put onto the columns and onto the floor, such as boxes, barrels, and other things. When placing things on the floor, I do recommend going through with your clippers and kind of clipping off those little nubs that are sticking out, and that'll make things lay flat on the surface. I decided I did want something on that 3rd level, so I do go back with columns and tops here, and with this complete, we are ready to add some texture to the floor. So grab your PLA or Mod Podge, and I focus on areas where we have some things on the floor, like these boxes. We will put a lot of grit or sand around this to make it blend in a little. But other than that, random patches on the floor will give you a little bit of texture and a little bit of eye candy. Now this next bit may get you the side eye from your significant other. I did have a trash bag, or you can use a newspaper, but I am sprinkling sand all over where we've put that glue. And I was really trying not to make a mess, but my wife was looking at me like, what are you doing? After letting that dry and knocking the sand off, we're going to want to give this a black primer all over. That will help lock the sand in, as well as give everything a uniform color. Now for painting, I am more known for that red, brown, and dry brush look, but I wanted to switch it up this time. We're going to do a few things differently, one of which is going to be using an airbrush, which is an absolute game changer. Yes, you can absolutely dry brush this stuff on, but this 0.4mm nozzle airbrush has been a godsend for doing terrain. And I'm going to start with a demonic yellow from the Army Painter. I'm just putting a little piece behind this so I don't spray it everywhere, and I'm just going to get the railing. I do like making my railings yellow because 1, it gives the terrain some visual pop, and 2, it's for safety. You don't have to be very accurate with this yellow spray, as we're going to go in with plate mail metal. This is another Warpaint's Air range, and we're going to get all of the metal pieces. This will be the stairs and the outsides of the walkways, and I'm also going to go down each tile piece where it has that little piece of metal on both sides. We're going to get that in this color as well. Alright, for the tiles themselves, I went with Iron Wolf, which is kind of a desaturated blue, and I'm leaving the edges alone where I got that silver and just kind of going into the middle of the tiles with this color. I'm going to be a bit irregular here. Just like your dry brushing, you don't want this to be very uniform, as you want some wear and tear, so I'm making quick sweeping motions with my airbrush. Once complete, I switch up to Necrotic Flesh, still using that same airbrush. I'm going to get the middle of the columns, these little window things if you will. I'm also going to use this to get the very center of each of the little mini tiles. This is a bit of a tie-in color, so while I'm trying to be somewhat careful, it's okay if I go outside the lines. You can see how quickly I'm going through and just spraying this stuff in. All of this terrain would be very worn, very irregular, and a lot of different colors. I do use Husk Brown to go in and spray the bottom of some of the columns, the boxes, and also just some areas to reflect some old rust. This is like that reddish brown color that I like to use. And then I go back through with some barren yellow, and I'm going to get a lot of the sand areas and just kind of a highlight on the boxes. Very light and subtle, but just giving it a highlighted effect. Now, using that 0.4mm airbrush, I was able to rip through this terrain really quickly, and like any Necromunda piece I do, I think it needs to have some hazard stripes on it, so instead of doing brushwork on this, I am going to go through with some markers. These are from AK Interactive, and I'm just going to draw on some hazard stripes with black and yellow. Now on my channel, I did a review on these markers. They're absolutely fantastic. These are still the original ones that I was sent probably over a year ago, and they still have plenty of paint. This is just an acrylic paint that's coming out of a marker. It makes things like this so easy. You can also use the yellow to do some touch up on the rail. You can see where I sprayed this a little of that blue color, go back through, very easily touch that railing up. It doesn't have to be perfect, as again, it is a worn piece of terrain. I apply some posters and other decorative elements. You can find these all over the internet just by searching for Necromunda posters. You can cut them out. I do soak the back with PVA and a little bit of water. I will stick that on, and then I'll put a little bit of the PVA water mixture on top to really lock it in place. In final touches, I grab some fresh rust. This is one of the Army Painter effects paints. And I go through in some random places, adding in rust here and there, and I will do the same thing for oozing vomit as well as a blood splatter in the middle. When using the oozing vomit and the blood spatter paints, I do like to put a blob of it on the terrain because you want it to almost be like a puddle. So I will do this and then just kind of mix that around into the area, and when that dries, you will have a nice effect. Now, the only wash or shade I'll use on this entire project will be some strong tone, just to go in and get the posters to really make them kind of weathered, and then you can go through and give some streaks on the columns as well, just adding some points of interest. And if your hazard stripes are looking a little too fresh for your taste, you can go through with this as well and kind of tone those down a bit. And with that, our build is pretty much complete. Our first tile is complete. For cost and time, this tile took about $20 to print and about 60 hours worth of printing time. I had about 2 hours worth of footage, so that was assembly, painting, and everything else. When comparing the cost of this to official terrain, that is about what you're going to pay for one Zone Mortalis tile out of the 4 that comes in the box. I think doing this out of the box would probably be a few $100s, so it is just a major cost savings to go this route with these compatible terrain pieces. I know 3D printing isn't for everyone, but this is what works for me. This is passive terrain, so when I get up and go to work in the morning, I can set my printer. When I come home, I have a terrain piece ready. When I go to bed at night, I set my printer, and when I get up the next morning, I have another terrain piece ready. This is just how things work, and over time throughout a week, it adds up, and then I'm able to spend a few hours on a Saturday to put everything together. Alright, really hope you enjoyed watching this all come together. It was super easy to make. This is something that anyone can do. As mentioned, I'll provide links for everything on my website so you can reference those and look to build your own. Supporters Club, your names are on the screen now, and I'll always say that's by no means necessary. While I do certainly appreciate it. If you've watched the video this far, you've done more than enough to support the channel, so thank you so much. We will see you in the next one. Take care.